Hello, this is Granniopteryx and I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I'm also on Twitter and Gab. Those are the platforms upon which I let you know when I've uploaded a new video. All the links are in the description. Also, there are links to donation sites which you may or may not use, but the best thing you can do for this video and for my channel is to like the video, to share it and to subscribe to my channel, and check that you're still subscribed if you're on YouTube. Okay, and this video is very few videos have given me more pleasure to make than this one, and that despite the fact that it records a truly tragic, horrific situation. But whenever I put my nose above the parapet to talk about Ukraine and the war there, I've had a lot of bots, a lot of hate and a lot of stuff from people that I respect, you know, long-time subscribers who have who hold a different opinion on Ukraine to me. I have to say, I was very disappointed, for instance, with Tucker Carlson, because I expected him to have more sense than to come down on the side of Russia quite so heavily. You can talk about the way the war, the situation is being handled, but not against, well, in my opinion, not against the justice of Ukraine fighting for its survival against a Russian aggressor. That's the way I feel about it. And I'm not the only one now. I have Prigozhin backing me up in this way. Now, a few days ago, I saw a video in which somebody made comments about Putin's, a long speech Putin made, in which he said, at the beginning of the speech, it was something like 146 Ukrainian tanks have been destroyed. And then it said, and then 2 hours later, he was saying 400 Ukrainian tanks were being destroyed. And the person who was talking about this was, well, asking really whether Putin was on top of things quite, because he was coming out with all these wild figures. In any case, even 146 tanks was too much, apparently. But I have another theory here, actually, because Prigozhin is Putin's, well, clown prince, isn't he? And let's try and get this out there. No, I can't. Oh, yeah. He's allowed to say things that somehow he gets away with saying things like the court jester that other people don't dare say. Now, he's saying, he is not directly attacking, I'll play the video to you, but he's actually not directly attacking Putin. He's attacking all his generals, second-in-commands, oligarchs and that sort of thing. And I think this, together with that, those strange figures about the tanks, might be Putin's way of getting himself out of a mess and saving face. It wasn't him, it was the information he was getting from other people. So he's not to blame. And it might be that he'll make this big speech, you know, the best case scenario. He makes a big speech, he says, look, I'm sorry, all these people have died. It wasn't me, Gov, wasn't my fault. It was to do with the information I got, but I take full responsibility for it. I'll resign. I'll make a caretaker government and then I'll resign. And then he'll never get round to resigning, or he'll say the people have demanded that he stays in power or something along those lines. But he can get out of this by sacking the army, basically, and starting again. And it wouldn't, of course, I could be reading the wrong thing into this, but this is what I feel might be going on with Prigozhin preparing the ground. So let's just go through the video he put out. It's on Telegram.
2014 года, с 14 по 22 год, Донбасс весь распиливался. Донбасс разворовывался различными людьми.
Do you see that? He says, the Donbass, this is for the people who are watching my channel who don't see so well. This isn't all that clear. The Donbass was plundered. It was from 2014, you know, when the difference of opinion over territorial boundaries started between Russia and Ukraine. He doesn't mention, you notice, that the Russians went into Crimea and just took it over. He doesn't mention that, it just starts with the date. From 2014 to 2022, the Donbass was plundered, the eastern side of Ukraine. It was plundered by various people. He doesn't say Putin. Some from the president's administration, part from FSB, that's the secret services, part by oligarchs such as Kurchenko. All right, let's carry on. I wish I could get rid of this.
Администрации президента, часть из ФСБ, часть привлеченные олигархи, такие как Курченко. Это люди, которые воровали деньги.
He says these people were stealing money from people in Donbass located in the unrecognized republics of the Lugansk and Donbass, the LPR and DPR. Okay, so he says they were unrecognized.
У жителей Донбасса, которые находились в непризнанных республиках ЛНР и ДНР. В этом ЛНР и ДНР существовали...
In this LPR and DPR, there were the Army Corps, which in case of attack by Ukrainians were meant to give a response. However, these ACS don't exist in reality. These Army Corps, they don't exist in reality. There was a minimal number of soldiers and a certain number of generals were simply stealing the money.
Корпуса народной милиции распиливали эти деньги. При зарплате в 40 тысяч, 20 тысяч.
Then he carries on. I think what I'm going to do, by the way, I'm going to cut after I've spoken, after I've read the words out and Prigozhin has spoken a little bit. I think I'll cut it because otherwise this is going to get too long. With a salary of 40k, 20k would stay at the till, 20k would be given to the soldier who signed the contract. There was no training, while the generals were simply getting money for these dead souls and the budgets were stolen. I'll tell you about dead souls because that's sort of interesting. There was a 19th century novel. It was written in the 1840s by Nikolai Gogol, and it was called Dead Souls. Just a minute. Who's that? Sorry, I thought that was... I'm expecting a phone call, but it hasn't arrived. Okay. Right, it was written in 1842 by Nikolai Gogol. It's called Dead Souls. It was an unfinished novel, but it was sort of... it was a picaresque novel. It was a travel through Russian society. What the Dead Souls referred to was that in the 1840s, Russian aristocrats and even middle-class people owned serfs, and the serfs were taxed. It was sort of like a Russian version of the window tax. The more serfs you had, the more tax you paid. But if you had a certificate saying the serf was dead, then you could get a rebate on the tax. And the hero of Dead Souls is going around collecting death certificates for dead peasants, dead serfs, in order to, as a tax dodge. And that's why Prigozhin was talking about these dead souls. Okay, so it says here, there was no training, while the generals were simply getting money for these dead souls and the budgets were stolen. He continues.
Оставлялось в кассе, 20 тысяч давалось тому, кто подписывает, если бы... И бюджеты пилились.
Next bit. Donbass was a perfect place to steal money by both the president's administration, employees, notice, not the president himself, even though Putin is possibly the richest man in the world. And he didn't get that money from ordinary taxes. First Surkov, then Kozak, FSB, the secret services, also had a full hierarchy of generals. All right? Next.
Донбасс был прекрасным местом, где распиливались деньги, как теперь по...
Now, on why the special operations started, you see he's not calling it a war, Ukrainians had a group that was placed along the border with Donbass, the one we were breaking from Popasna to Artemivsk. Sorry, the print here is not that clear. Okay, so that's, yeah, let's carry on.
Тому, почему началась спецоперация. Украинцы имели группировку, которая находилась по границам с Донбассом.
He is, of course, I suppose, referring to the Azov battalion, which has had a very bad rep, but is for being Nazis, but is actually no more, well, certainly no more Nazi than the Wagner group. But of course, Russian propaganda turned it into the most terrible military organisation in the world, backed by the Ukrainian government. To start with, it was a sort of private militia, but then it was taken into the Ukrainian army and became a lot more disciplined and stuck to the rules more than it had done previously. Right. This group consisted of various volunteers, nationalist units, as well as the regular army. This group exchanged fire. We fired at them. They fired at us. And this was happening for all these long 8 years. So he is actually saying that Ukraine wasn't acting aggressively towards Russia, just towards the Russian aggressors.
Из различных добровольных все эти долгие 8 лет, с 14 по 22. Иногда нарастало количество.
Sometimes, he continues, the number of firefights would increase. Sometimes it would reduce. As of 24th of February, there was nothing extraordinary. I suppose that means they weren't being any the worse just before the Russian invasion than they had been in the previous 8 years.
Различных перестрелок, грубо говоря, обмена боеприпасами. Сейчас уже Министерство обороны...
But, no, right now, the MOD is trying to deceive the society and the president. You see, Putin's escape hatch. And tell a story that there was insane aggression from the Ukrainian side and they were going to attack us together with the whole NATO bloc. So now what he is saying is Putin is not to blame. All these generals who were stealing money from the Russian people, they were whipping Putin up and giving him the wrong information for their own purposes.
Пытается обмануть общественность, пытается обмануть президента. Спецоперация.
Thus, the so-called SMO, a special military operation, was started on the 24th of February for completely different reasons.
24 февраля она была начата совершенно по другим.
Okay, well, that's what Prigozhin has to say. Not me, Prigozhin. And despite the fact that he's a rogue, a criminal, and probably a murderer, there is no reason for him to come out with this, except, as far as I can see, to protect Putin. Somebody down here says, if his actions are not part of any strategic info plan, he's either on his way to an open window or he'll turn against them soon. I think he will be he is now the saviour of Putin. And I think they cooked this up between themselves. Of course, I could be wrong. It's not a fake. It's not a fake. He's doing too many physical movements for this to be a deep fake of Prigozhin talking. We're not that good yet at faking a whole body like that. So it's not a fake. It's, well, the only sort of fake I think it could be is the fake of Putin trying to save himself and free Russia from all these terrible generals, come back as some sort of saviour. All right, well, that's my theory. This is Prigozhin's speech on the internet, and, well, he says it's all the general's fault. No, it's Putin's fault. But if Putin wishes to give that image of being the helpless dupe of a whole cabal of money grubbers, then yeah, let him. If he takes everybody out of Ukraine, if he goes to the negotiating table, I can sort of see him doing a half and half over Crimea. That might be the answer. But yeah, this is just my idea. Okay, well, yeah, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share, share, share.